Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Network. My name is Jeff Bradbury. Thank you so much for joining us today and making TeacherCast your home for professional development. This is Digital Learning Today, a podcast all about instructional technology and how we can best use it in the classroom. I am so excited to be coming back from the ISTE conference in Denver, Colorado. 15,000 educators all came together to support student learning, student achievement, and it was absolutely bonkers. It was amazing. I had a chance to work with Microsoft, had a chance to speak at the Google booth, and absolutely had a fantastic time meeting so many of you guys out there. I want you guys to do me a quick favor. If you did go to ISTE, I want you to head on over to teachercast.net/ISTE. We're going to be putting up all of our videos, our interviews, our blog posts, our reviews, everything about ISTE. We're going to be checking out over there at teachercast.net/ISTE. Hope you guys had a good time, and I would love to have you guys be a part of our newsletter. If you do head over to teachercast.net/ISTE, you can sign right up there and be a part of our Digital Learning Today weekly newsletter. Thank you guys so much. You know, one of the things that they talked a lot about at ISTE was artificial intelligence. I know that sounds so shocking. But the one thing that I really focused on between all the Microsoft stuff, the Google stuff, and all the other companies was this concept of prompt engineering. The concept of not just how to use AI or should we be using AI or when to use AI, but specifically how. And what I found was it's easier than you think, yet deceptively difficult. They actually mentioned at the Microsoft booth, one of the easiest things that you can do when trying to tell AI what to do is ask it to help you do that. And they did a demonstration where basically the first thing that you put in there was, help me write a prompt that helps you create this blog post. And I looked at that and that was mind-blowing. I never thought about it. It was kind of meta, but it was kind of cool today. So here's what I did. 15,000 people and everybody in the country, I went out hunting for somebody who knows not only about artificial intelligence, not only is an expert in the STEM fields, but also can share with us a little bit about how to best write a prompt so that way we can support not only ourselves, but do some pretty awesome things with our students. And I'm excited today to welcome Ryan Read onto the program. Ryan, how are you today? Welcome to TeacherCast.
Well, thank you, Jeff. That was quite the introduction, and stuff I missed at ISTE this year that I didn't get to do. If I didn't have FOMO before, I now have it for sure. No.
I am excited to have you on here. You know, as I mentioned, ISTE was all about this whole artificial. I think it's intelligence is the second word, right?
It's intelligence is more of what it's put on. Yeah, you have the AI, and some people think the old Steven Spielberg movie, and some people go back to the Terminator movies and everything. But artificial intelligence, what it is it does learn things, but the truth is it is pretty much an algorithm. Believe it or not, when people say AI, technically you mean algorithm intelligence more too. And there's books coming out of this and some empirical evidence. A friend of mine actually contacted me, and I wrote up a little, speaking of which, we'll talk about a little later, about a prompt about boy, how would I organize this? I haven't written something like this for a peer review paper since my dissertation. So, it was kind of like, how do I do that? And I did my checks and I talked with some people, and it's there is a structure to it, and we'll get into that as we do the problems in here. But the one thing is people need to understand about AI is you do have to understand the prompt design of it. I can't say, you can say the simple, hey, roll a 6-sided die at random. Well, I could Google that. Google's a very early version of AI algorithms because it would look for that search. It would look for those keywords and how much meant. And if we go way back in time to the 90s and the late 20th century, we had Yahoo, where I would say, hey, find me Captain America. Oh, here's a website on it. Here's a wiki, or hey, here's an article that was just posted by marvelcomics.com 2 weeks ago. Go ahead and read. That was more basic, and as time went on, that's what it is. But basically, how the algorithm searches and pieces, the difference is now it's taking all that bit data based on a prompt, and it's giving you that information. Like if I did a resume and I say, could you update this resume to be more of a curriculum vitae? And for those wondering, what is a curriculum vitae? Stop with your dissertation, Dr. Reed. But anyhow, one thing would be could you reorganize and edit this so it's structured as a curriculum vitae for education, or can give me a curriculum vitae for construction or accounting, and it will look over and say, yeah, sure. This is ChatGPT or Google Gemini, and it basically looks what you have. It's basically doing like Grammarly or anything. It's first of all, if things are spelled right, if you got some bad grammar mechanics, because one thing people always say here is like, well, it's a resume, you need to summarize it, but it doesn't have to be a marked punctuation. I actually had a description on my my objective, and it immediately divided it into two things, like, hey, you got to put a period here and this here. And believe it or not, I got more phone calls and emails saying, hey, would you like to come in for an interview, just fixing it, because everything else, it just either cleaned up a word, and then it always would say, but tailor this that sounds like you, because you can tell. And we'll talk about that, about people talk about plagiarisms and students. We'll talk about that later.
So let's start at the beginning here, because when we're looking at using AI, one of the things that was very clear is all AI is not the same. And having a chance to really meet some of the engineers that work with Microsoft Copilot, and then meeting some of the engineers that work with Google Gemini, there is clearly a philosophy difference here. Just to kind of frame the conversation here, in Microsoft Copilot, once you close your tab, it goes away. In Google Gemini, it saves it. And those are two completely different philosophies. I'm not here to sell one versus the other. I pay for both. I use both. I've been kind of saying this as I'm dating Microsoft Copilot, but I'm engaged to Gemini, only due to the fact that when I go back to Gemini, I can say, hey, remember that conversation we had 3 or 4 days ago? Let's dive back into that. Whereas Microsoft Copilot, I think, is actually a better product, but it's like Drew Barrymore in 50 First Dates. Every time you have to reintroduce yourself to it. But I think,
shout out right there to 50 First Dates, but I think that's a great analogy. I think it's a great analogy.
Now, let's just start at the beginning. Between all of the AI programs, and I know there's hundreds of them out there.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have a personal favorite right now? And if so, for what? Or do you choose your AI tool? And look, I'm not talking about, all 100 of them. Like, let's look at the big 3 or 4 here. Do you go to one specifically for a certain function, or are you married to one for your overall AI needs?
Mine is more of like, I have a long-term friendship. I have more BFFs preferred. I have an acquaintance with mine. As you perfectly said, you're dating, but you're engaged. The other one too. I have to say, when I'm using more personal pieces or something on the draw, the number one everybody says is ChatGPT. And I've used that ones many times, because sometimes it's just very simple to say, hey, can you update this letter to be reflected to a community college, even though the letter maybe would be for applying for part-time to work at a library, and just say, hey, take this letter and give it the prompt like you do this towards a media directing position that's open at a community college in Illinois or in Rockford in Chicago. And it will do that, because it will also look like, oh yeah, who's applied here? What would be a simple structure for that? And it would do that. So like, if I had to do like a right off the bat, or like, boy, I gotta type this out, I can't think ChatGPT. Educational wise, I have hugely hit with Magic School AI and Diffed. Magic School AI is honestly the most user friendly. It also is very easy for student prompt. So if anybody has and they have SOPA agreements with most school districts, so they don't have that problem. So it's just letting it through the filter while whitelisted versus it's blacklisted. But another thing is, you do only have a premium or a paid version, but if you get certified in Magic School AI, you're getting more higher end features, and it does count as PD credits if you're looking to just get your PD for certificates or showing what is your knowledge of that. Because one thing Magic School is, it gives you a little bit of everything from current stylings, and I think it updates every 3 months. Like when DALL-E 2 came out, it gave you more things for image prompts, for like if you were making an infographic. So it does do that, so it keeps you modernized in that. And then, like I said, the levels there. So for school and other pieces, or I need to make a rubric, and I know what I want the kids to be able to do once we're done talking about making a food truck, or talking about structuring a sphero bridge that's not going to break, that's going to go over 15 feet between one end to end. But it's like, well, what would be the actual correct thing on that? And I could pop into a rubric and say, hey, you know what, pop in a couple of your objectives, and it gives me a nice little readout, and then I can copy and paste it, export to Google or Microsoft. I love it. Diffed was very good, which is, if nobody's tried Diff, it stands for different, is what it actually is. Diff is very nice. The bad news is you get a 90-day free trial. And then after that, you either have to only have so many credits, and I'll talk about Canva AI in a little bit on this, but you can do a lot more differentiated lessons. You can update pieces. You also can take old lesson plans, upload it there, and just say, hey, you know what? This is a lesson I made 9 years ago. Could you just rewrite it to give depth of knowledge level 3 and 4 and put it to Common Core? Done. export it out, boom. Oh, my principal wants me in my updated lesson plan. There's my updated lesson plan. Okay, cool. We move on with your lives. And just teach the lesson like you have with the updated prompts. And then Canva AI, if you're in graphic design, if you're into podcasting, if you're into video, one of my biggest things for the last couple of years is teaching kids how to make a better presentation. So I actually, in Canva AI has come so far with Magic Studio and everything now. And no, I do not speak with Canva. I might use Canva, but I am not their spokesman. But it just lets them do the prompt. Like I need an image to talk about why I love Fortnite so much. Okay, but you only can use so many images. So it's like, design something that looks like the level of the night Fortnite on a Tuesday night. There's my cover. Boom. Now give me your bullets and click on Magic Write. Oh, I don't know if it's words. Some things are not spelled correctly. Magic Write. Okay, looks through it. Okay. Here's your suggestion. Do you agree or disagree? Sure, I try again. I agree. Boom. Organize it. Talk to the kids, talk to the students, like, okay, let's look over that. Okay, fix this. That's not centerized. Or I'm an old guy. No, I'm not that old, but I say, how can you read that? And they go, oh, you're right, Dr. Reed. I can't read that sentence. Like, change the color. Like, it doesn't have a prompt to say, hey, excise the color. It's getting there. But it then kind of gives the students to go back into it. And even though they've saved some time, they've gotten their backgrounds, they've structured everything, they've gotten a better area, they then have to go back through it and look at it. I mean, one thing all the AIs say, from ChatGPT to DALL-E to something, is, does this sound like you? Does this meet who you are? Or did I just basically do the old classic 1999, I didn't write the report. Google wrote my report and I just copy and paste. Good job citing that. And then, 2 years later, cite your sources. Oh, crap. I got to cite my, how do you cite a website?
One of the things that we learned about is the structure for creating AI prompts. And there was a banner that was there that was talking about this acronym PARTS, PARTS. And P is persona, how to identify your role. And I want to go through each of these with you. We'll talk a little bit about it here. But one of the things that I was struggling with, and everybody had a different point of view, is, do you start with, I am a math department supervisor, or do you say, you are a math department supervisor? And I don't know if it really matters. I started playing with each of these things, but the first thing that you want us to do is to basically set the room. I am this person. And that does have a big difference in what's going on. Let's just start with this persona concept here, Ryan. But do you start with I am a, meaning yourself, or you are a, meaning the chat program?
And this is this is actually a huge point, because like I said, no matter what, an AI cannot do three things. Number one, it cannot predict the future. I'm sorry, as much as we try, Ben Affleck was wrong. It does not predict the future. Number two, it doesn't know who you are. You don't know if, like, boy, my cat just passed away and I'm dealing with my daughter having a thing. I'm emotionally messed up. It has no idea how I'm feeling. And number three, it can't give a straight answer to every situation. It's like saying, I want to apply to be a math teacher in middle school. The best it's going to say is, here's a known letter for a middle school piece. Fill it out all you want. It doesn't know. It doesn't know. It's like, well, what are you teaching? Are you teaching basic arithmetic? Are you just doing early intro nothing? Are you teaching an honors class? It doesn't know that. You have to prompt it too. So if mine said, if I go to it and say, I am a media teacher, give me a rubric on creating a stop motion using Canva. And it will say, okay, here's what you should do for each slide for your sub. But then it'll say, but Canva is this blah, blah, blah program. I cannot access this. I'm just going to give you what I got off of Wikipedia or from some websites that are public to do it. Versus if I say, using Google Slides, I am a business teacher. I would like the first 5 pieces of what is the stock market. Boom. It says, okay, what's your grade level? Okay. I should have said, like, oh, wait, I'm a high school. So for freshmen through juniors, basically 9 through 11. And then it retails it. It looks at the messages, look at thing. It looks at who's your audience. So then it says, here's what a stock market is. Here's a global market. Here's the 3 different types, bear, bull, pig. Here is stock basics. Okay, there you go. Your first 5 are done. Good luck. Have fun. It really needs to know where you're coming from. If you're just saying, hey, edit my resume to fix any grammar mistakes, it's just going to look for grammar mistakes and maybe spelling mechanics. If you're saying, hey, you know what, I need to give the lifestyle of a guinea pig, It's going to say, well, here's the basics of where they come from, how a guinea pig lives, and what they should eat. It's not going to say, oh, this is something I learned, or I found out they're more group animals. That's not me. It's not personalizing its wealth, or it's not giving, as they say, point of view. It's like I said, it can't read emotions. Maybe I have been having the worst day ever. Car needs new tires. My garage door is broke. By the way, this is based off a true story.
Your cat died, right?
Exactly. My cat died. But I need to say, hey, I need to email this parent to talk about why their son is not turning in assignments. And I can just give the prompt, like talking to a sophomore thing about grades not doing it. Student was doing X, Y, and Z. Here are 2 assignments they're missing. And it immediately makes up a nice little prompt for that email. But it's doing it better because, as they say, what's the biggest thing you can't do with text? You cannot read emotion. And some people are like, why are you yelling at me? Like, well, what do you mean I'm yelling? Your 2 letters are in capitalized. That wasn't my thing. That was me calling my cap box got stuck, or I hit the wrong button when I went to hit shift. But you interpret it as you're yelling at me.
So the first P is persona, identifying your role. The second one is aim, stating your objective. And we learned a lot about action verbs, right? So I am a music teacher. Brainstorm ideas for a lesson plan, right? So you have to be action verby with this to make sure, create something, design this, move this. And this is where I sometimes get lost. You are a teacher, help me create a blog post for you. And I feel that maybe that's not the best answer. It should be, I am an educational blogger, create a list of 10 prompts that the teacher. So I guess maybe going through this is a little bit of therapy for me, as it usually is. But let's just kind of quickly go through a few action verbs, right? Brainstorm this, create this, design this. What are some of the other terms that we can start with on our prompts?
Believe it or not, my former instructional coach, she was aiming a little thing. She's a AP geography teacher. And one thing she wanted to do is, a lot of people were listening to certain music. And believe it or not, what was popular at the time she was doing it was Beyonce's Texas Hold'em. So she ended up saying, give me she's like, I am an AP geography teacher. I want a song about the manifest destinies to the rhythm beat of Beyonce's Texas Hold'em, and just give me one chorus. And this was in Google Gemini, just so you know. And I've done it too, because I did something with game design. I talked about the origins of Nintendo, but those action verbs hit it, because the truth is, I could say like, hey, give me this to, Hootie and the Blowfish's, crack rear view mirror. And I'll be like, well, what beat do you want? Or I'll do this with the chorus of, this person, or do you want on the drum beat? And it's designed to look at that. So those action verbs are, because I'm in community theater. I sing at my church, not a music. I listen to music. Some days I'm on key, sometimes I'm not. But at the same time, what's important is your beat on that part. As they say, when in doubt, sing the melody. So henceforth, I put that action verb as on this beat to this song by this person there. And then you could change it to where it's like, as you said with Gemini, it saves that material. I was looking for one I did. So I just went back and said, prompt on what I said about the origins of Nintendo for my introduction for game design, and Scratch for makey controllers. And it just came right like, oh yeah, sure. Here's that information, Ryan, that we did 3 weeks ago. And then I said, you know what, could you update that to be shorter on a Canva presentation? And it shortened up the words and it fixed the text. And then I just downloaded the piece, or I just copy and pasted it, and then it worked better. But you have to say, where is it going to? Like you said, I'm not a music teacher. I do business tech, STEM, applied tech, CTE. I've dabbled in many other fields. I mean, I have a theater background. One of my next one would be give me a lighting directing sign for a theater department, a theater room that is 24 by 14, has 15 light setups, and the director will be off stage in a booth that's about 600 feet from the thing. Well, they said, well, then you're gonna have to have lighting that's gonna have to light up this part of the stage based on that play. But it'll say, what play do you want? I said, give it to me where it gives a dark and moody thing according to the play Death of a Salesman. There's like, oh, then you want X, Y, and Z, and you want this too. I'm giving it that prompt, and I'm giving it that mood setting. So it's not just action verbs, it's also adjectives. Like, I want to create the opening to a story. Give me the old classic. It's a dark and stormy night with the sound of rain in the background. And then it looks at that and kind of gives it. But at the same time, it's like, well, you want to adjust the audio. Say like the audio is very light in the background. Like I said, those action verbs, because otherwise it's like, I can't hear what he's saying. I hear nothing but thunder and lightning. And is that a cat screaming? I don't hate cats. It's just what's coming up here.
So when we're looking at our prompt writing, number 1, we have persona, identify your role. Number 2, we have aim, stating your objective. Number 3 here, I think is probably the most important one, which is recipients. Specify your audience. And it says to here to, include details about the intended audience. And the example on the screen was the audience should be a school budget committee or sophomores or Spanish 9th graders. Or so, again, I am a music teacher, create a lesson plan for music theory for my 8th grade students. And so you're starting to figure out that frame. Now, we can go into details about all of these, Ryan, but my question to you is about this debate that seemed to be happening with multiple people at ISTE, which is, do you put all of this information on the first prompt, or do you baby it? And I noticed that even this was a debate between the Magic School, the Microsofts, and the Googles. Some would say, fill out this whole thing. And some would say, I am a middle school music teacher. I am looking to create an assessment. Boom. Great. And then it asks you a question. Or you can even ask the prompt. I'm a middle school music teacher and I'm looking to make an assessment on Beethoven. Ask me questions so that way we can create a lesson plan together. And for me, even the concept of telling it to ask me questions was a game changer. And what's your thoughts on this? Do you put everything on one first prompt and then whittle it down? Or do you piecemeal it and go, okay, I need 2 eggs. Well, what kind of eggs? Great. I need some flour. Well, what kind of flour? How do you put all that stuff together? What say you?
That's actually a fantastic question, because like when I was first using AI, I would be like, do this 9th grade freshman. Okay, great. But am I looking at any ones that have IEPs, 504s? I have ones that have short attention spans. Do I have kids that want a more in-depth area to it too? So I then started going, say like, give me this. I have 2 kids with a 504 plan. One specifically is they have a retention issue, so I will have to repeat this and then go from there. And I've done that, but then I've realized that it's sometimes prompted on every single slide. That's great for that one student, but then, Rachel and Mindy back there have I've heard this for 6 slides. I don't care. I'm going to sneak my phone out and Snapchat my friend because I've you're repeating this 9 different times. Why is it doing it? So it really comes into, like I said, you said sometimes it is a piecemeal. Sometimes here's the agenda. It's for sophomores. And then later on, by the way, I have 2 ELL students. Give me the prompt so I can, the same prompt to curtail so that they can do that, especially when I got one who's very good at English speaking and one who cannot speak any sense of English outside of yes, no, and okay. And then it would look into that. Then I would be there and I would have to separate that, say, hey, now you and you go ahead and open that up. Let's go to that. But then they can follow along. I've got the main one here, but then they can just go over there too. But I've also had students that are hard of hearing. And it's I used to do videos. Well, what did I have to do? I had to turn on transcription. So I said, make sure transcriptions are available for all slides. I have one student that is basically legally deaf. He's not going to hear a word I said. He knows sign language. Yes, we have an aid in there, but the aid's only so fast with the word. But they can read at a 11th grade level, so they have no reading issue. But where's the emotional aspect of it? So you have to look at those audiences. I found out piecemealing works really well. And then sometimes it's just hey, I have 15 freshmen. We're going to talk about how you should avoid cognitive bias online. Go. And then say, okay, now I'm going to look at these 2 slides because I know I have 2 students where that probably after 2 minutes, they're going to drift off. Or it's but where can I do the engaging? And it might be say, okay, once we get to this lesson, give me an engaging part of lesson that will get them up and out of their seats, and we will go over and do a thinking classrooms model, or we will do a quick activity. And I say, well, why don't you try X, Y, and Z, or use a Freyer card and break that down and then think, pair, share. Perfect. Wonderful. Gets everybody up. I differentiate it. I do it. It's also noting your audience and knowing your class. They always say well, you got to know your students. You got to have a relationship. And I agree. You have that. The relationship counts for everything else. But as they say, know who your audience is. I want the introduction because I'm about to talk to the school board about how our STEM Maker Fest is going to be working for 4th and 5th grade. Give me the opening to that. And then after that, it's it'll say well, are you an opening too? It's oh yeah, this is free. So make it so not only am I talking to the school board, but grandma Jean is going to be on her phone watching it live stream on YouTube. And it's what are they talking about? Versus, oh, gotcha. That works. That makes sense. And then we build it from there. Now let's show what the kids got. Here's 2 of my kids introducing yourselves. Wonderful. You move on. Because like I said, everybody has distinctive personality. Because like I said, real tool, it can't read emotions.
One of the things that I did notice is there is no wrong answer here. There is no right answer, right? And it's because every program is running things a little different. I did make sure when I met with all these different companies, I said, are they really running the same core? And the answer isn't no, but the answer isn't yes. It's just a matter of, okay, everyone's pulling from this same centralized nervous system, if you will. It's just, is that 20% of what you're looking at, or is that 60% of what you're looking for? So it's really amazing how different companies have decided to take different concepts on here. When you're working with students, we had already talked about Magic School AI. I love Magic School AI. I'm not a paid member. I haven't taken any of the certifications yet. I think that's going to be a summertime thing. But I was using Magic School AI, the free version, during the school year for just basically creating rubrics. Simple, easy, copy and paste into Google Classroom, make it look nice. What's your recommendation for showing students how to use this? And that was a big conversation. It's a tool. It's not the cheat sheet. How do we convince students that this is a tool and not this thing?
And that is a fantastic question. I mean, something I definitely did too, because like I said, when we were doing Magic School the first time, is I did have it to where we had early prompts where we just did the basic introduction. Like, I'm gonna give you a prompt. Here's what you do. And it worked good. They'd make a teacher joke, or they would make a quick little, give me what I should emphasize on my dash robot, talking about the cell, about the pieces of a cell. It might say, we'll talk about the main 8 parts of a cell and what's the difference between an animal and thing, and then repeat that and pause between videos. You only have 1 minute. But then it got blocked because of various reasons. I mean, it's not blocked now, but it was one of those issues. So the thing is, what's going to be available to the students, and what is it that we can do a prompt with? I mean, I believe it or not, for students, and I think is I do like to go to Canva because I can do a lot with those things. I can create an avatar characters. We can make logos. A lot of them are gamers. They want their own badges for their tweet decks. I mean, not tweet decks. Twitch pieces, and get that done. So the truth is, I walk them through it, and then I give them a prompt like, okay, we're going to do my this one I love the most. I've been doing this since the last years. We're going to make a 4 presentation. What is AI and what isn't AI? And then I give them the prompts, and then it's like, we're going to use this tool. Let's get an image for your presentation. The first thing is like, I want to make a couple things using the algorithm in Magic Create. Okay, I like this presentation. Cool. Click. Boom. Okay, we're done. I said, okay, now delete. Get down to those last basic slides. Just get the 4 slides. Okay, slide 1, introduction. I said, go to the apps, look up these AI, look up one of these 2 AIs, and we're going to do them both. Find out which one you like. And some of them, they have to keep prompting, because it's like, I'll show them like, see, it made that. But I'm like, but then like I said, now let me pop this in. As you see, it can't do it. And I say, hey, guys, why isn't it unable to do that? And it's like, well, because it can't think that way. They said, I have a better job of drawing that on a piece of paper and thinking what it is. I said, great, let's go to Draw AI. Now draw what you really want on that piece of paper, give it the description, and let's see what it was. Oh, you're right, that works really good. And I've had a lot of students do that, because the problem is a lot of students were always throwing presentations up. I just got to throw a bunch of words, information, and make my point. I'm doing a book report on the secret garden. Okay, here's a garden. This happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. I go, what's wrong with that? And they said, what do you mean? I have all the facts. Like, no, what is wrong with that? Oh, I'm reading the slide. I'm like, do they hear you very well? No, Mrs. Blah, blah, blah would say, I have to know the thing. I was like, but why are you reading? He's like, because I put 15 things on there, because I told the AI to give me 15 facts about the secret garden, chapter 1 through 5. Right. So now go to that prompt and find the ones that are good for you, and then use the next magic prompt to clean up any editing issues. Like, oh, okay. And then they did that. So it's also making like the little rubric checks. Like, okay, let's do a check-in. You've used DALL-E 1 to make up a shark that's made out of chocolate that is surfing a strawberry ocean to talk about why sharks are awesome. That's and it grabs the audience. Like, oh, you've got the audience. But I said, is the shark really going to be coming on? Oh, no. Is it made out of chocolate? No. I'm like, but have I gotten the attention? Yes. There's your AI. You've gotten your audience in. Now let's go to that next page. What is AI? And then go from there. And I said, now let's use these. Now we go back to that tool. I want you to find two you like that either are going to give you a free credit or say, hey, you have 5 uses of this right now. I said, do that. Let's explore. I'm going to walk around because there might be some tools on here I've never used. And it's kind of nice. We kind of learn together, but I give them that prompt. What are my 3 things? What is AI? And then we go over that maybe 4 or 5 minutes. And then I go back. It's like, I'm going to use this. Here it is. There's what is AI. It's like, okay, let's create the next slide. And I said, now let's go to the prompt here. Let's clean up this slide. Say, give me an organization for 4 bullet points using Magic Write. Sounds good, Dr. Reed. Go in there and then, okay, I have the prompt. Say, okay, click on it. What is an AI? I said, I'm going to give you one. AI cannot predict the future. Okay, AI cannot predict the future. Cool. What do I do next? Oh, I got to hit enter to make that next bullet point. Sounds good. Now, what would be an example? What also it is? And they're like, oh yeah, it can't tell how I'm feeling. I'm like, perfect. Put that in. Now, what would I use? Like, oh, I can go to image gen and find a logo of maybe me sad. Boom, go, click on it. Find the emoji you like. All right. Third one, I'm like, go for it. What do you want? What's a third thing you know? You got your notes on that PowerPoint. I've mentioned a couple. So then they have to scaffold. They have to remember. And sometimes I might have a student that might just like, I just cannot remember this other one. I said, let's go over it again. What's this? What's this? And I said, what's another way you can do it? It's like, oh, I could just look up Google, which is a basic algorithm AI, and just say, give me a couple of lists of that. I said, good. Now you're transitioning tools. You're using your tools you're built in since you were 5 years old. You make it. So then it's like, it works for those prompts. It works for those check-ins. But the biggest thing is to show the students to explore it. And then what is their limitations and what is not their limitations. So it's just like tool. You can give me a screwdriver. Jeff, it's like, what can a screwdriver not do? What can a screwdriver not do? There's my prompt for you. What can it not do, a screwdriver?
Hammer a nail.
Exactly. Some people think it can hammer a nail, but what is really a screwdriver? No, it can't hammer a nail. But then here's another thing. What is an example of a flathead screwdriver? If you were, let's date ourselves, go MacGyver here. What would be an example of a flathead screwdriver?
A door jamb.
Door jamb or a butter knife. What do a lot of people have? Butter knife. You're in culinary arts. Find a simple tool that transitions tools, and then be like, I'll make a butter knife. That can open up a flathead. Of course, if you were like a certain wrestler who is Sergeant Slaughter, he just used his thumbnail because he was Sergeant Slaughter. I am dating myself. Yo, Joe.
I'm suddenly going into I'm not going to say it on this podcast, but a quote that he had in the G.I. Joe movie of a ditty bag. Anyway,
an itty bitty.
Okay, there we go. We've broken that wall. All right, I want to wrap this up here because we talked about parts. PARTS, persona, identifying your role. A is aim, stating your objective. 3 is recipients, who's the audience, and then 4 and 5 we've basically already covered it. Theme, which is the style, tone, and any related parameters. In other words, do it in no more than 50 words, use pop culture references, whatever it happens to be. And then finally, structure, right? Note the desired format, right? I don't use bullet points, don't use metaphors, use sketches, quizzes. Tell it what you want. Make me a quiz all about this thing, right? So I don't think personally we need to have all of that in the same deal, right? There's been times where I've said, let's do an outline first. Okay, no, I don't want this. I don't want this. Great. Now I like the outline. Now let's write the first paragraph together. And I'll actually write out an entire blog post based off of something now that we're post ISTE, I'm doing a lot of take the press release, stick it in, and then generate an outline. And then we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. And I'll go find the website that has more information. I'll copy that in, and I'll go, okay, we're going to put this in the 4th paragraph. And so I feel like even though I'm not sitting here on every single word, I am sitting here on every single thought. Right. So I do feel like it's my partner. And I want to wrap up today with something that I found out that I thought was interesting. Have you ever looked at the logo for Microsoft Copilot? If you look at it the right way, do you know where I'm going with this?
I think I do. I'm going to bring it up on my phone over here.
The way that the Microsoft Copilot logo looks like, it basically was designed as 2 hands. I'll put this on the camera. 2 hands kind of clutching each other. And the idea behind Copilot is you're not thinking of it as your secretary, as your executive assistant. You're thinking of it as your partner. We are going to do this together, as opposed to go do this for me. And if you think of go do this for me, then you're not going to get what you want, because then you're going to go back and say, well, I don't like this at all, or I do like this, or but if you're working on this together, I think that's kind of how I'm going to take the next few weeks over the summertime as I start to create things. I mean, look, I'm creating a brand new second level curriculum for my middle school kids. So part of it is I'm going to say, take what I've already done and let's bring that to that next level. My last question for you with all of this stuff is this, Ryan. We know that people are using artificial intelligence to create content, whether that be tests, quizzes, blog posts, whatever it happens to be. We also know that people don't read.
Mm-hmm.
We also know that if you give me a PDF, I'm not going to read it. So we're living in this world where the people who are creating the things are not really doing the work, and the people who are consuming the things are really not looking at it to begin with. Or they're putting it into AI and saying, summarize it. I guess the question I left Denver is, what are we doing? Right?
Yeah. I think
that's actually doing here. And the only thing I can come up with is I'm creating content for Google search to find me. So that way, when you put in, I need a podcast on, it hits. Because you're not reading all the show notes for this episode, and I'm certainly not writing all the show notes for this episode. So what are we doing here? I don't know if I'm wrong in thinking about that.
No,
Obviously, I love your thoughts if you're listening, but what is the purpose of doing any of this stuff if we're not consuming what artificial intelligence is writing? And apparently we're doing it wrong in the first place because we're new at this. So I'm going to leave you with that question, Dr. Reed. What is the point of all of this?
And that is a wonderful question. And I think that's always what it comes to. No matter what is created. I mean, I remember when people saw the very first long rail trail I'm like I said, people always said I missed my calling as a social studies teacher. But a lot of people is, why are we making this railroad? Why is it like, well, it's not only to do it, but it's also get shipments, it's get people to explore the frontier, it's to move, it's to adventure. And people said like, oh, it's all of those things. I thought it was just mean I need to get somebody from New York to Alabama in the next 2 days. I thought that was the point. It's like, maybe that is your point. Maybe it is. It's like, what need is it fulfilling? They always think, like, as a marketing teacher, what is the niche? What is it? What are the 4 P's of marketing? Person, place, price, people, I'm actually going to the 7 P. Sorry, I'm getting cool thing. That's what happens when you only have 1 cup of coffee in the morning. But it always is how is it aiding you? I mean, we talk about the logo with Copilot. It looks like 2 hands. If you look at Gemini, what is really the point of Gemini? If you want to go to the astronomical sim, it means twins, but it means 2 people hand in hand helping each other. That's actually the point of Gemini. So Google Gemini has that. Apple's AI that's coming out too still has the Apple logo, but then it has a couple little sparks going on to, like, it's giving you magic school. What is it? People said it was when a lesson comes to life and things work student, it feels magical. So what is that logo? It's the magic hat with a wand doing a little area too. If you really want to go back, it's actually technically based on Mr. Wizard's World on Nickelodeon from 40 years ago, believe it or not, where, he made science amazing since the 1950s because it was like, oh, I think science is boring. No, but what is it? It's like, well, why are you doing this? It's like, don't you want to know why an ice cube melts? That's a good question. Why does it? I thought it was just for hot. It's like, yeah, but I could pour salt on it. If I really want to do it fast, I could put it under water. Why is cold water making an ice cube melt faster? I don't know. There's the experiment. There is the piece. I think what's happened to, just like any other, I remember when Google first came out, people said like, oh, now people are not going to summarize reports and do everything and so forth. And they said, but are you citing that source? Is it really doing? Are you hitting that plagiarism? And some people always say, well, isn't that plagiarism? Like, well, no, plagiarism is you're copying somebody who's already written it. It's out there in the world. It's on somebody's website. It's if you look at Elvin the Chipmunks, he took Simon's report on dental hygiene to get out of being grounded. I'm a pop culture nerd anyhow, but that was an example. The only difference is what happened is it was written out. So what happens is Alvin went and typed it out, but Dave had no way to tell that was originally Simon's report because what happened? He didn't check the fact because it was Simon. He was the smart, intelligent of the boys. Why do I need to check his work? He got an A. I can believe he got an A versus like, oh, Alvin, who's always a troublemaker and always, acts first and thinks later. Looks like he really put some thought in because I know when he thinks something out, he'll put some effort into actually doing the job. And that's where kind of it goes. I think what we're really doing is we have this new tool. And the truth is AI is just much more higher up than it's been in the last 10 years. It's nothing new. It's been around. Like I said, what's the most basic AI tool? Do you actually know this answer, Jeff? What is the most basic AI tool and it's been around since the early 1990s?
My children.
That's a good one. It's your spam folder on your email.
Oh,
that's
yes.
the most earliest form of AI. Oh, somebody keeps deleting this email. You know what? I guess that email is being sent out as a newsletter, or, oh, he reads this, but then he erases 2 other people from that same messenger. I guess that's spam too. But it's not doing it versus like, hey, I've done my fundraiser. You don't need to email me 90 different times about contributing more money. It's coming out. Stop giving me a reminder. I don't care. But that's the most earliest form of an AI, was a spam folder on an email way back when. I mean, like I said, I'm AOL way back when, from my first emails in Yahoo. That's the most earliest form of AI. And I always make the kids go over their emails, because they have like 14,000 emails, and they just leave them there. And I go over, like, go to your spam folder and then tell me what it's hitting for spam. And somebody's like, there was a track meet alert 3 days ago. Why did it do that? I'm like, well, think about it. Like, I've been ignoring all the emails from Coach. So what did your Gmail tell you? Why do I need to have it there? Like, you've now done it. How could you fix that? Maybe reading the emails, maybe not deleting as many. There you go. You've trained your AI. But why is your spam, what I say, why is the spam folder? Like, so I'm not getting wasted emails and time. You've got your answer. That's the purpose of a spam folder. Don't waste my time. Don't get me something I've read 60,000 times. There it is. How are we consuming it? How does it feel that niche? And where are we going with that? And I think the problem is, as soon as you have something too new, everybody wants to lock down, or you got people that abuse it. And it's true. I've seen AI hugely abused in other classrooms, where I had a teacher email me, say, Ryan, come over here. I really want to see if this is done. And I even have the timestamp for it. And I looked at it, like, you're right. He's copy and paste. It's like, do you think he's using AI for this? And I looked over, like, yeah, he is. Like, why? When's the last time that word was ever used? And she looks at me like, you have a very good point. Versus like, I think he used AI, but this sounds like his Ryan. Is like, because he took the AI as a prompt, he fixed it and edited it, made it his own materials, and then he still cited his source. And they're like, then he just did it to save time. I said, yeah, and I said, and he plays football. Guess what he doesn't want to do? Miss practice. What does he also not want to do? Get benched and not play because he failed his paper. I'm like, there you go. I'm like, isn't that true? Like, I've got to get to my kid's soccer game. I have to go take the dog out. I have to run to the doctor. What's one thing I can cut right now? Is like, well, you go and order what's the most important, and you drive that way. It's like, exactly. If my doctor's office is on the other side of town, I'm going to start there first and work my way back. I've saved time. There's my motivation.
If you'd like to learn more about artificial intelligence, prompt engineering, we have a bunch of great podcasts over on TeacherCast. You can head on over to teachercast.net/podcast today to check out all of them. I honestly think we're over 40 different artificial intelligence podcasts out there. And Ryan, this was certainly one of my favorites. I have learned a lot. And, coming out of Denver, this is definitely something that is real. Even having conversations with my family here going, the kids are 10. This is time. I'm not ready to give them an account yet, but I'm ready to sit down and have them start to learn how to do these things. I leaving Denver, I walked by the Microsoft booth one last time to say goodbye. They roped me into play with Microsoft Designer.
They're good at that.
I am building myself as a Muppet. I said, my wife's a double bass player. I said, create me an orchestra with a big bird that looks like a Muppet. And basically they created an orchestra. It was interesting. They had some of the Muppets playing violins, but it had to have been 150-foot tall big bird in the center of the stage with a double bass. It was awesome. I sent it to her, and she says, just please stop and come home. But
I know that feeling. I played with a robot, and my wife's like, Ryan, enough.
Yeah, and we're time to go, right? But these are important things. This is that playtime, right? Because what's playtime right now is going to be tomorrow's soft skills. And for our students, we need to be able to know that. If it starts by finding out answers to the homework, great. We all know that the response to that is write a homework assignment that people can't just copy and paste.
Yep.
But no matter what, there's a lot of great things that you can do on here. Ryan, where can somebody get a hold of you and learn more about the great work that you're doing?
Well, you can find me on my social medias. I'm both on Threads and Instagram at Herc78. You can find me on Blue Sky at Ryan7Read. I still have an X handle there. Once in a while, I will share my podcast on X. So if you want to do that, it's also at Ryan7Read or Mastodon and everything. And I have a Patreon page, which I finally got, which is the Pixel Classroom. I have set that up. That's a long areas I do with my own podcast, as well as the new Reads, which is part of that as well, too. So if anything, you can even just subscribe to the Patreon page and just see what stuff coming up. I have an amazing YouTube channel. At least I think it's amazing. I think my AI needs to give me a better prompt for that one, which maybe I used it for. At Ryan3178, just look up for Mooper Films, which is my family blind logo based off my wife's hobbies back in the day. So I'm on those. I'm pretty much around. I'm around. I'm good. You just look up Ryan C. Read or Dr. Ryan C. Read, and I pop up in some really things. And I think I have a better picture there where I look like I've shaved and had a haircut.
We want to say thank you guys for listening to this episode. We have got a lot more podcasts coming out over the summertime. If you'd like to be a guest, head on over to teachercast.net/contact today. We would love to have you and feature some of the great things that you're doing in your classrooms. And so there wraps up this episode of Digital Learning Today. On behalf of Ryan and everybody here on TeacherCast, my name is Jeff Bradbury, reminding you guys to keep up the great work in your classrooms and continue sharing your passions with your students.
You've been listening to the TeacherCast Educational Network, hosted by Jeff Bradbury. Please reach out to the show with all of your questions on Twitter @TeacherCast or online at www.teachercast.net. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And please take a moment to write a review in the App Store.